Hi again, everyone. This is another edition of Mr. K on Sports, and it is my last of the previews of the Major League divisions. I'm still in the American League, and I'm going to finish with the American League Western Division. I see first place going to the hated universally Houston Astros. Of course, they had the cheating scandal from a couple years ago, but this club really has just too much talent, I think, for anyone else to beat them in the American League West. The Astros did lose some talent, but they still have an excellent farm system, and they're just loaded with people between some acquisitions that they've made in the offseason, as well as people coming up from their minor league system. So some key players I see this year, of course, veteran Zach Greinke continues to anchor the staff. He's been a great pitcher for many, many years. Lance McCullers Jr. is a guy that's had an arm that I've really liked, and I think he's about due to reach his full potential this year. Justin Verlander is on the injured list. Not sure what his status is. He can only be a bonus if he comes back to be the ace that he's been in the past. The infield is probably the highlight of this team. It is star-studded. Yuli Gurriel at first base, very solid. Jose Altuve, the veteran at second, has just been an excellent player. Maybe a little on the downside now, but still very serviceable. Alex Bregman, stud at third. Carlos Correa, stud at short. It's a star-studded infield, really the middle of that lineup, very tough. I see the Houston Astros having enough to finish first in the American League West. Second, a little bit of a surprise, I'm going with the California Angels. The Angels have been an underachieving outfit for many years, but I think I really like some of the acquisitions of veterans, particularly the pitchers, that they've added. Of course, they have Shohei Ohtani, and he's a guy that if he can stay healthy, just would be an unbelievable two-way talent. He's an excellent pitcher, and he's an excellent hitter. If they can figure out how to balance that and keep him healthy, he'll be nothing but a superstar. Jose Quintana is a veteran that they've plugged into their rotation from the left side, and he's always a productive guy that eats innings and picks up wins. Alex Cobb's another veteran that they picked up. He's a solid right-hander. And Raisel Iglesias, they picked up to be their closer, the ex-Cincinnati closer. So I see them anchoring a pretty strong pitching staff for the Angels. They also picked up a veteran lefty reliever, one of my old favorites, Tony Watson, who's a guy that just keeps rolling, and he's always effective. At third base, of course, they have Anthony Rendon, the ex-Washington National, who's still very productive. They, of course, have the consensus best player in baseball, Mike Trout, in center field, and he just seems to get better and better. And finally, the vulnerable veteran, Albert Pujols, definitely on the downside of his career, but I could see one more swan song for him where he gets some big hits down the stretch to keep the Angels in contention for the division or perhaps a wild card berth. So I see the Los Angeles Angels finishing second. In third, I'm looking at the Oakland A's, the Athletics. The A's are a team with Billy Beane at the controls and the Moneyball philosophy. They seem to take a step back every now and then, but then they kind of reload and they get some very overachieving type players that produce a lot of victories. And I see this team and this roster full of them. Some of the highlights, well, they have some flexibility with three lefties in the starting rotation, but I think the real strength of this team is also in the infield. Matt Olson is an up-and-coming first baseman. Jed Lowry, a veteran at second, very underrated player, very talented switch hitter. Matt Chapman at third is a guy that I think still could take a step forward and become even better. And Elvis Andrus at short, over from Texas, always a very consistent performer, a good defender, and a solid hitter. They have Stephen Piscotty in right field, who I've always been high on, the ex-Cardinal, who I think still has some unearthed potential. And Mitch Moreland is a first baseman DH, lefty swinger with some good power to add to the middle or end of that order. So I see the Oakland A's challenging, but finishing third in the AL West. In fourth place, I see the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners have a bevy of left-handed pitching, at least five that they could roll out as starters in their organization. James Paxton's a guy that's on the injured list. He could be their ace when he comes back. Marco Gonzalez could be the future ace, another lefty who's a good-looking young hurler. Kyle Seager, excellent third baseman. He's been very consistent for many years. He supplies power from the left side. Ty France is a guy to watch. He can play several positions. He's versatile in the infield. He can also DH. And then there's Mitch Haniger in right field, who I also like. So Seattle's a bit young. They have some guys on the rise, but not a whole lot to compete this year for the division. I see them finishing a distant fourth. And finally, bringing up the rear in fifth place, the Texas Rangers. Texas is kind of caught in between a rebuild with some veterans here and there that they're trying to supplement the roster with. Mike Foltynewicz, the ex-Brave, they acquired to anchor the rotation. That hasn't worked out so far. He may be on the downside. Ian Kennedy, an ex-starting pitcher, they're counting on to be their closer. Nate Lowe is an interesting prospect at first base. I like his bat. Nick Solak, ditto. Looks like a very good hitting second baseman. They have Joey Gallo, the ultra power hitter in right, strikes out a lot, but he'll also strike some fear into the opponents with his home run bat. And Chris Davis, the ex-Athletic DH outfielder, again, tremendous power. If he can harness some of that for the Rangers, it'll keep him in some games. But I see Texas lacking, especially in pitching, but also in their lineup. So I see them finishing in the cellar of the American League West. So once again, to review, I see first place, the Houston Astros, second place, the Los Angeles Angels, third place, the Oakland Athletics, fourth place, the Seattle Mariners, and fifth place, the Texas Rangers. In my next segment, I will predict what will happen in the American and National League playoffs and who will ultimately win the World Series for the 2021 season. Until then, this is Mr. K on Sports signing off.